So, warm hello and welcome to our meditation and then Dharma talk. And as an introduction to this meditation, the there's a wonderful expression that has somehow appeared in the last, I don't know how long, decade or so, and I'm not sure who coined it, but the expression is trust emergence. Trust emergence. Trust what's emerging. The process of emergence. And how I understand that is that there is a potential, there is a inner functioning of our psycho-physical, spiritual being that given the right conditions, given enough space and silence, can bubble up and emerge in a wonderful way. And to trust what emerges when we get quiet and when we get out of the way, when we don't fill our minds, our hearts with activities and desires and wants and a lot of thinking and fantasy, to be present as if you're delightfully listening for a sound of a rare bird that's nearby. Just you relax and get very quiet to allow the sound to emerge. Or the way that you would be maybe just watching in a relaxed way the top of a lake and just waiting for some fish to jump out and plop back in again, and the emergence of the fish. And the kind of inner stance of receptivity, of openness, of enough quiet, enough of a sacred pause that something within begins to emerge. And it's not always welcome what can come if we have unresolved issues that finally have a chance to surface. But the expression trust emergence means trust that if you can stay open, receptive, and uninvolved with what is coming up. Allow it to surface and bubble. The psychophysical, spiritual depth of who we are will process, will evolve, will mature with whatever difficulty or whatever great joy that bubbles up for us. And over time, what we come to appreciate and what we trust is not necessarily what is emerging, but we truly trust the space, the openness, the receptivity that makes room for things to emerge. And that's where safety can be found. That's where nourishment can be found, is in that receptivity, that openness, that giving things space, not interfering, not getting entangled with what's here, but holding it all in awareness and mindfulness. So trust emergence. So to take a upright posture, and the physical posture you take is part of this trust emergence. The posture that you take that maybe makes room for something inside to, something healthy from deep inside to emerge. If we sit all slumped over, there's something deep inside that doesn't really have the same space to appear as if we sit open and with the chest not puffed up, but just kind of present in a clear and full way. And then to gently close your eyes. And there's a regular rhythm of the inhale emerging. The inhale begins and grows and becomes full enough. So to take a few slightly deeper inhales to really savor or feel or fill out the emergence of the inhale. Almost like you're making room for it to become complete inhale. And then letting go as you exhale. And a letting go that allows the exhale to be complete enough. A deep inhale that moves your rib cage front and back. A longer exhale that lets the rib cage fall back in again. And then letting your breathing return to normal. And becoming attuned to the exhale. For the next few breaths, really tune in to the exhale. And gently, without any straining for success, see if you can let go with the exhale. So the exhale is a little bit longer, fuller, complete. And then with that exhale, on the inhale, let your body roam around and find a place of holding or tension in your body. And on that letting go of the exhale, see if you can do a similar letting go, relaxing of the bodily tension, holding. Relaxing as you exhale. Relaxing the muscles of the face. Relaxing the shoulders. Softening the belly. And then for the next few breaths you take, prioritize the inhale. By letting there first be a very momentary, short pause before you inhale. And then let go of the pause and allow the inhale to emerge in whatever way it grows, emerges. And then with the inhale and the exhale, you allow for the inhale to emerge. And you let go of the inhale, completely let go of it in order to exhale. In a certain way, the inhale is completely gone when the exhale begins. The absence of the inhale allows for the presence of the exhale. The absence of the exhale allows for the emergence of the inhale. And then while you're meditating, trusting the emergence of the inhale, during the course of the inhale, be open to and trust the emergence of however else happens. It's all okay, just trust that it appears, whatever it might be. But when you exhale, let go of everything. Let go of your focus or receptivity to whatever is happening, only to be receptive again on the next inhale. Trust emergence of anything and everything as you inhale. Trust letting it go, relaxing of everything as you exhale. Trust emergence as you inhale, and get out of its way as you exhale. Either let go of it, but more importantly, for the duration of the exhale, let go of your concern with the inhale. Let go of your concern with whatever else has emerged. Trust the exhale. Trust letting go of your thoughts as you exhale. And then with the next inhale, trust the inhale. Trust what emerges. Trust emergence. And trust also letting it completely be as you exhale. The kind of letting go that is not really making anything go away, but is letting go of any entanglement, involvement, judgments, preferences. Just letting it be as we exhale. Letting it be in a quiet mind, a mind that has some stillness in it, in which has space for things to emerge. Even if you drift off in thought, that itself is an emergence of thinking. Maybe there's a way of trusting that as well. As long as on the exhale, you let it go, let it be. Step away from your involvement with it. Return fully with the exhale to create that fertile ground at the end for the inhale to emerge, for all things to emerge again. And as we come to the end of this sitting, trusting emergence, not so much what emerges, but that open space within us, the open awareness that makes room for things to appear. That makes room for what's deep inside of us to be touched, to be moved by what is occurring. And as we come to the end of this sitting, trusting emergence can also be trusting what is touched as the world emerges for us. What tenderness, what sensitivity, what capacity for empathy can we allow for as we trust what emerges in us, as we take in the world around us. Then perhaps we can allow ourselves to be touched deeply, to be moved with love, with care, with compassion, with empathy. We can be touched with the poignant tenderness of this life. We can become tenderized by the fragility of this life that we share with others. And then to give space, allowance, and intention to our care for the world. That meditation practice is a source from which to have that inner sensitivity of care, of compassion, of love, of receptivity for the emergence of the world and the people of our lives. And may our ability to trust emergence be the space to which we also allow our care and our love and concern for the world to flow, so that we live for the betterment of the world, to make the world a better place, perhaps in the smallest possible ways that we're able to. May we live this next week for the welfare and happiness of all beings everywhere. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be free. And may we contribute to their happiness, safety, and freedom. So I'd like to make a few announcements before the talk. And one is that here in California now, they say a great majority of people here in this state are now in stay-at-home orders. So many of you who are listening from California won't be going much anywhere this week, maybe, much less than usual. And maybe people in the other parts of the country and the world are also have a kind of stay-at-home policy or approach these days. So because of that, I certainly want to try to make IMC be more supportive for people in these difficult times. So I was wondering what we can offer more than we already do. So this next week, I'm teaching a retreat, an online retreat, and normally the teachings for the online retreats just for the people on the retreat, especially live, and we've been continuing that policy when we do online retreats. But it occurred to me this morning that why not have my talks be available live? And for those of you who would like to listen to a retreat talk and would like a little bit more Dharma during the day, I thought I could make my at least my talks available. And in California time, I'm teaching Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4 p.m. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 4 p.m. California time. And I will be here on the YouTube. That's the plan right now, unless my colleagues say that we shouldn't change it that way. But I think it should be fine, wonderful, I think, to do this. And those of you who have never been on a retreat, you'll get maybe a little bit flavor of a retreat from it. And retreat talks. Sometimes we don't like, I have this idea of not making retreat talks so easily available because retreat talks are a little bit different in flavor than regular talks, and maybe the context is not, they're not understood as well without the context. So with that caveat, starting tomorrow, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then little bit, so next week, partly because of the retreat and partly because during this time next week, I have to go get a COVID test because I'm going to have later in the week, next week, I'm going to have a cataract surgery, and part of that preparation is to get tested for COVID to make sure that I'm good for the surgery. So I've invited a wonderful young teacher to come. His name is Josen Gibson, and I've been mentoring him in the current teacher training, and I'm quite enthusiastic, and I'm very happy for him to come and teach to our community, and so I think you'll be in wonderful hands next Sunday here with Josen. So for the talk. Sometimes I like to think that we have a choice of living in two different universes. The universes, at least, of our own experience. And we have some choice between these two, but there really can be, at one end of the spectrum, each end of the spectrum of these two ways are very, very separate from each other and lead very different ways. And one is conducive to support the world of clinging and attachment, and the other is much more conducive to freedom and compassion. And they represent two forms of action of how we can live our life in the world. And so, then they kind of a divide between these two places. I want to lay out these two sides of this dichotomy, and maybe at the end, remembering we don't want to live in this world that's so separate between these two. They don't have to be so separate. There's actually a way of holding them together where they work together. They don't have to be opposed. It's just that if one side is emphasized, too much. Either side emphasizes too much can be a problem, but especially what I'm going to call the first side is probably the one that's most problematic for this world that's often difficult and challenging. So these two modes of action, modes of being, modes. The first I call utilitarian, and the second I call appreciative. We can live in the world mostly with utilitarian attitude towards everything, or we can live in the world more with an appreciative mode for everything. And it makes a huge difference which of these you choose. And maybe in different contexts we choose different ones, but really to understand that there's we have these two different capacities, and to be wise with them, and probably the second, the appreciative mode, is maybe really the beneficial one for really trusting emergence of this Dharma life that we have. So the utilitarian mode is pragmatic, focusing on a goal, and looking at what is of utility, what is beneficial, what has the greatest good as a consequence of what we're doing. And in this regard, often the goal is more important for people in this utilitarian direction. Like what's important is how we get to the goal, and whatever is useful for that is what we're focusing on. And often then there's no sense that the means, that the goal should be represented in the means, but the means is independent from the goal. The appreciative mode is not so much focused on the goal, but is more focused on the process of how we are. Whereas the utilitarian mode is focused on the future, usually, about where we're going, how we're going to get there. The appreciative mode is more focused on the present moment, and with the experience of the present moment, independent of where we're trying to get. The utilitarian mode is more focused on productivity, a product, a result, a consequence that we want to have. And the appreciative mode can also focus on something growing and developing and becoming different, but it's not from being productive, but rather through enhancement. How do we enhance what's really good here? How do we make room for things to emerge and to flow in their own way, as opposed to trying to be most efficient with what's going on? In that the utilitarian mode is more about a goal, a direction, what we want to get. There can be failure. We can fail to get to that goal. We can put a lot of effort in, and then there can be a lot of regret that we didn't attain it. The appreciative mode, rather than focusing on failure, the tendency is to focus more on satisfaction. It could be, wow, that didn't work out. I didn't manage what I was trying to do. But boy, was it satisfying to do it. That the focus on the present moment, the appreciation, the enhancement of something that's really good in us, maybe it makes, for many things, not everything of course, but for many things that we do, that maybe it's less important that we succeed than how we did it was really satisfying and meaningful. We might still have the sense that we failed or we didn't manage to do what we hoped to do, but it's eclipsed by that tremendous joy and delight in the doing itself, in the satisfaction of being engaged. And so there's no regret that we did it, because the outcome maybe isn't as important as how we do it, the engagement in the process. The utilitarian mode is more about becoming something, making something come into being, and the appreciative mode is more about being itself. Just what is here and how am I be, how am I, and the emness of us rather than the future of us. Whereas the utilitarian mode is maybe more centered on wanting something to happen. The appreciative mode maybe is more centered in loving what is. And of course, with loving, it's possible to want something to be different. But the center of gravity, the home base, is in the loving, not in the wanting. And certainly we meet people who have as their home, the place where they're rooted, or place which really is the operating volcano of their life, is their desires. Sometimes we say some people, the neediness of other people. Neediness is a very intense desire that is projected onto someone else is going to help us attain it or to get it. And maybe utilitarian mode is maybe more has to do with hope and longing for something, because we're hoping and longing for something different than what we have. But then in the appreciative mode, maybe it's more aspiration, inspiration. And the difference being that the hope and longing is more focusing on the goal, the outcome. And at least in my vocabulary, aspiration, inspiration, almost because it comes from the word spirit or respire, the breathing itself. Aspiration is what this emerges in us, a desire, a wish, a vision that has bubbled up from the inside, out of the goodness of who we are, the wholesomeness of what's here. That would be great. An aspiration doesn't have to be fulfilled in the way that a hope has to be fulfilled. An aspiration is just kind of a love for, this is possible, this is a vision. This is worth working towards, but let's work towards it in a way that's satisfying, that how we are with this aspiration. Let's stay close to this nice breathing, this nice sense of breath, this place where things emerge in a wonderful, free way. I associate the utilitarian mode with acquiring, wanting and getting. And I think of the appreciative mode as being tending to things, wanting things to be well, but then tending to them, supporting them to grow, enhancing them, letting them develop, and the best in that thing or that person or them to come out. Not wanting them to be a certain way, but tending to what's already here, so that what's wonderful can develop. It's kind of like gardening. Tending to a garden, you might take out the weeds, so the flowers can really grow, the vegetables can really grow. Utilitarian mode, I think of as much more the fixing mode, fixing things, fixing people. For people involved in spiritual care, pastoral care, like chaplaincy in a hospital, one of the really important tools or attitudes or approaches of a chaplain is whoever we meet, is we don't try to fix them, but rather we nurture them, we support them, we trust their emergence. We meet there to appreciate them, to value them, and to listen to them, and to accompany them. And it can be very hard for chaplains not to want to try to fix the problems, the suffering we meet with people. And sometimes that misses the point to fix. Sometimes that does actually disservice for people. But sometimes it's just a whole other appreciative mode, which is an affirmation and an opening, and it really allows something much deeper connection for people to have with their inner life, with their spiritual life, that in the long term sometimes is much more beneficial than the fixing of a particular problem. So instead of fixing related to tending, the appreciative mode is nurturing. We want to nurture what's there. And the utilitarian mode, because it's pragmatic and focusing on an outcome and sometimes wanting to be efficient, there's often a strong need to know. And people who just want to get things done just want to know how to do it. The appreciative mode, there's less need to know. And in fact, there's an appreciation of the value of not knowing, of showing up with beginner's mind, with not knowing mind, showing up without knowing a lot, which can mean that because I'm there with not knowing, I'm not bringing my preferences, my projections, my bias on and putting it on the situation that has to my expectations, my desires on it. I'm here just to be open, not to know, and to trust emergence, to trust what's here, and to learn what's here, to take in the circumstance, situation, and the person in their fullness, rather than being ahead of what's happening with my own agenda. So the utilitarian mode is more about efficiency and often excluding what is unnecessary, we think is unnecessary. I would like to think the appreciative mode is more about cooperation than efficiency, more about inclusion, community, than it is excluding anything or anybody. And cooperation is often slower in the short term than sometimes just getting the job done for oneself. When I was working in the monastery kitchen, I was the kitchen manager for a while with a crew of maybe 9 people. And in many ways, I was a better, more skilled, maybe better, I was more skilled, more competent cook than most of the people who were new to the crew. And so I could do many of the things that needed to be done. I could do 3 people's job. I could do it myself. It was much more efficient for me to do it. And so it was very hard to assign things to other people. I just wanted to do it. I could do it, a third of the time. And it took me about 3 months to learn. I'm a slow learner. That the best thing I could do in the kitchen was not do any work myself at all, but just go around and nourish, support, affirm, supply everyone else in their jobs. And then the kitchen worked so much better. And in a sense, doing the particular thing that had to be done in the kitchen, whatever the item was, happened maybe slower, but the whole kitchen worked so much better when I kind of enabled the cooperation. I cooperated, supported everyone to do things. And so the cooperation and inclusion. The utilitarian mode, focusing on the future, focusing on getting things done, focusing on being efficient, and doing just the right thing, can sometimes make no room for the inner muse, for the inner heart or spiritual, or the depths of who we are, to listen to the music of the heart, how the heart sings, or the deepest kind of wisdom and understanding, connectivity that you can only tune into if we kind of slow down, open up, and allow something deeper to kind of manifest and respond to what's going on. I associate the utilitarian mode very much with being in our thinking mode and fixing mode and planning mode and arranging mode and being efficient mode, which doesn't really connect us with this deeper place of knowing that we can have. And so in the appreciative mode, there's slowing down, there's a receptivity and openness. So there's room for the muse, for the heart, for the spirit, for our fullness of our being to operate together. And then finally, I think of the utilitarian mode as often being fueled by need, but the appreciative mode also can do things, but it's more maybe inspired by possibility. And so there's less kind of drive or clinging. It's more like, okay, let's open to this possibility. Let's reveal this possibility, rather than let's make it in an acquisitional way. And so some metaphors are kind of for this 2 different modes that we can maybe see a little bit better, that we have these 2 modes to be. So one is that in a utilitarian way, in the evening, when we're ready to go to sleep, we can ourselves put ourselves to bed in an efficient way. But we can't in the same way, I can't put myself to sleep. Sleep is something I make room for, I have to allow. I have to kind of get out of the way, but I can't lay there in bed, okay, now I'm going to be the most efficient going to sleep person ever. And the race to sleep, that doesn't really work. Sleep is something that comes upon me, that not something that I do efficiently. And acquiring knowledge is something we can do pragmatically and utilitarian ways, but we can't become wise just by getting knowledge. Wisdom has a different source that is not often so efficient, not often with acquisition, about the means and getting something, but it's more like allowing again and being present and paying attention in a careful and full way that allows this deeper parts of ourselves to respond and to process and digest what's happening, so we can allow something deeper source of wisdom knowledge to arise rather than just only practical knowledge. Maybe a good comparison to these two different modes is pleasure and happiness. That it's relatively easy to do something that's physically pleasant. We can get food, we can get a massage, we can go outside, we can do pleasant things. And we can, but happiness, you can't just kind of do something to make yourself happy. But the appreciative mode makes room for happiness. Turns out there's much more joy available, much more happiness available any given moment than most people allow for, most people avail themselves for. In the appreciative mode, there's time, space to take in and notice how many wonderful things there are, as well as all the challenges in this life. And to switch the mode and how we are, to live in a more appreciative mode, it's amazing how we live in a different universe. And the rules of the universe, or the understanding of the universe, the information we take in, the information upon which we build our understanding of ourselves and the world, changes radically which of these two kind of approaches we take in our life. The utilitarian mode, if that's all we do, I think we're really limiting so much what, how much happiness and joy that's actually possible here. Also, limiting how much love and compassion. Finally, another kind of metaphor, I guess, for these two modes is praise. It's possible to do things to get people to praise you, but you can't pragmatically get people to admire you. Admiration is something that comes from inside of people, maybe more private in them, whereas praise is just what they say to please you, or to somehow get from you what you would like, and they know that we want praise, and so they give it to us. But admiration, that's more something in the privacy of their own inner life that arises from something deeper inside. So to combine these two worlds, to not see them as separate, there can be a goal. But the process of how we get to that goal is such an important part of it that maybe we bring them together, and often it's the process in which the best qualities of our life have a chance to flow and come. The goal itself is a little bit abstract because it's in the future. It little limits what we're focusing on. But if we focus on the goal, but remember the process is important, we bring along so much more of who we are and what's possible. And it's possible then to discover well springs of satisfaction inside that we can enhance, well springs of wholesomeness and goodness that we can enhance and nourish and tend while we are pursuing what we want, what we hope for, maybe what we want to get, what we want to become. So these two modes are not opposed, they can be integrated together. But I think for people interested in Dharma practice, it's really important, really useful. It's a utilitarian to focus on the appreciative mode. It's actually quite productive in a spiritual way to not focus on productivity, but to focus on enhancement and nourishing and tending this life of ours here. And so how do we allow for this appreciative mode. The appreciative mode is something that we have to give time for. We have to allow for certain inefficiency, slow down, open up, look around, take the time. And it might be in the beginning that it's helpful as a practice to practice a greater appreciation, to spend more time with your world, yourself, what's going on, not to push away or deny the difficulties, challenges, and the things which are off, but maybe make it a practice to begin appreciating more what's already here and what is good about here. There are thousands of things to appreciate in any given day. And what happens to you if, as you go to bed at night and laying there waiting to fall asleep, you go through and appreciate so much of what is of that day, to think about the things that were valuable and things you're grateful for, which is kind of two of the definitions of appreciation, is to value something and be grateful for it. So to spend time practicing appreciation, focusing on appreciation, and then more deeply than thinking about all the things we appreciate, in the present moment, what way of being, what kind of attention, what kind of way of holding oneself and being present allows you to soak in what is appreciable. So not just think about it, but to let what you can appreciate be there to nourish you, support you, tend to you, bring you satisfaction, bring you a sense of inclusion. All things included, all things have space here. And perhaps you'll come to appreciate that the ability to be open and receptive to what emerges, what's happening, that allowing to let things register and feel, eventually will become one of the most satisfying things to do, way to be. It's the doorway to deep satisfaction, deep appreciation, and deep loving and compassion. So, two different universes you can live in. The appreciative world, appreciative mode, leads to one universe. The utilitarian mode alone leads to another universe. And then the third universe is where we really want to live, is really integrating these two together so that we get the most from best worlds. And we're here to benefit this world as the best way we can, with both perspectives supporting each other. So thank you very much, and I look forward to our next time together.